Welcome to Heidi Relationships. Today, we'll read some more stories from Reddit. But before we start, I would really appreciate if you could subscribe to the channel, like the video if you enjoyed it, and maybe leave a comment down below. That would help the channel a lot. Thank you very much in advance.
The first one is titled, "My wife cheated on me with her female best friend. I am devastated." I don't want to give too many details because I am trying to stay as anon as possible. My wife and I have been married for almost 3 years, and together for almost 6. We got married extremely young. I am 21, and my wife is 23. A year ago, we had a very serious family tragedy that put a large strain on our relationship. This tragedy was the death of our child. Since then, we have been very emotionally distant and just disjointed in every way. Arguing a lot and disagreeing with everything. My wife isn't the same person she used to be. I don't blame her for this, she lost her child. We used to be extremely close as a couple. A couple weeks ago we decided to separate, and I began to live somewhere else in an effort to figure out if she would be happier away from me. I felt this was the best decision for our relationship. Of about a week of living apart with minimal communication and almost zero physical contact, we met up and my wife expressed that she wanted me to move back in. However, she told me that before we were separated that she had a sexual encounter with her female best friend. They made out in bed while my wife's friend was heavily intoxicated, and my wife was slightly drunk. My wife said that her friend felt her up, but she didn't do that to her. Obviously, my feelings are absolutely broken. I've moved back in with her, but I can't even look at her the same. I don't know what to do. A user in the comments said, "Don't let her convince you to minimize this just because it's a female and her best friend. My best friend tried things with me multiple times knowing I have a that she hated for no reason, and a kid at home, and it ended our friendship because she tried to brush it off as a normal thing girlfriends do. And it was just really gross. Is she still going to be friends with this person?" The next one is titled, "Update to my wife who cheated on me with her female best friend." Well, it finally happened. Day 0. I filed for divorce today. My wife has been manipulative, toxic, and a complete liar. She cheated on me with her best friend, and after multiple attempts of extending my love, grace and forgiveness to her, she is refusing to stop communication with the individual she cheated on me with. How crazy is that? She is choosing her friendship over her own goddamn ducking husband. It feels freeing. I don't ever see myself getting in a relationship again. This is extremely tough right now, but I know I'll be better in the long run. The next one is titled, "I Ada for telling my parents they are irresponsible for getting pregnant for the 6th time?" I am, F19, am my parents' second child. I have 3 brothers 21, 13 and 7. And a sister, 16. We grew up poor and our parents were often dependent on financial help from relatives, friends etc. for raising us. This is because even though my dad has a mediocre job and my mom doesn't work, they just kept on popping out one kid after another. My parents are very religious and believe that children are a gift from God. Personally, I think that's total BS. My parents' reproductive choices wouldn't bother me if it hadn't caused mine and my siblings' lives to turn to crap. While growing up, we never had new clothes or toys. We had to accept handouts from family members who were better off. We never went out or did anything fun. Now, my older brother and I have managed to get into good colleges and are looking forward to a future that would be better than our parents' lives. He and I have been home for quite a while due to the COVID-19 lockdown. Yesterday, my parents called all 5 of us into the living room. Mom said she had great news. The smile that was forming on my face dies a quick death when she said, "We're pregnant." I lost my temper. I asked them how they could be so stupid and irresponsible. Do they not have enough financial troubles already that they have to bring in another mouth to feed? My older brother tried to calm me down, but I was livid. After a lifetime of scarcity because of my parents' stupidity, they still hadn't learned their lesson. I asked them how they planned to provide for the kid. My dad told me I would have to give up the money our great uncle had left me. He had left all 5 of us some money which only we could access when we turned 18. I said, hell no. That money would help pay for my college expenses. He called me selfish for not being there for family. I told them if they couldn't provide for the kid, they might not be able to keep it. My mom started crying and called me a heartless monster. Dad told me he was disgusted with me. I told them there was no way I was going to pay for their stupidity. Since then, atmosphere in our house has been very tense. So, tell me, am I the butthole? Edit. I forgot to add that I told them that the only thing I'd help pay for is an abortion. FYI, I'm not American and abortion is completely legal in my country. Edit 2. I want to thank all of you for your kind and helpful comments. Some of you asked if my money is safe. Yes, it is. My parents can't get it without my written consent, which they are not going to get. It was suggested that I talk to my younger sister. I'm planning to do that and I'm going to do my best to ensure that she doesn't fall for any guilt tripping by my parents. To those of you who suggested that my comments were cruel, I see where you're coming from. But my biggest worry is the way my parents' reckless lifestyle is going to affect my younger siblings. And they're not doing this kid any favors by bringing it into a life of poverty. Once again, thank you very much. A user in the comments said, NTA, in all honesty I'd let it be tense in the house. Do not give them even a penny and do not help them with the baby no matter how much they try to guilt or shame you. They made a choice, so it's their problem to deal with. And ignore all the people that say but family or they're your parents, so you have to respect them. Respect is earned, not given. They are selfish people who don't put their children's quality of life first. After 5 kids they have no excuses and made a choice under the assumption that you older kids would sacrifice for their decisions. They don't sound worth a warm relationship with. Another user said, I'm pregnant and currently having to rely on help from my family, but I've also helped my family over the past few years while in college and working, and only now relying on their help due to circumstances out of my control that made me lose my partner. Your parents didn't hit a hard spot and aren't in a temporary bind due to circumstances they can't help. Your mother could work to help, after giving birth, since finding a job while pregnant is hell, or your father could get another job. The fact that instead they're expecting you to pay for it, and getting mad that you won't, is frankly, stupid and irresponsible. They shouldn't keep having kids they can't afford. It's one thing to be in a bind, it's another thing to just be blatantly financially dependent on others for decades. The next one is titled, Update Ida for telling my parents they are irresponsible for getting pregnant for the 6th time? Quite a lot has happened since I originally posted about this. I decided to get some family members involved so they could talk some sense into my parents. I called my mom's maternal cousin. She's one of my favorite people. When I told her that mom and dad were having another kid, she reacted with, "What? Again?" I told her everything and how they expected me to hand over my inheritance. She said she was going to speak to my parents and told me not to sign over anything. I promised her I wouldn't, of course I won't. I also called 2 of my first cousins, one of whom is an accountant, so she could explain to my parents how much of a financial liability this baby is going to be and try to convince them to either abort or give it up for adoption. I moved out of my parents' home a few days ago. I was only going to stay here till the lockdown was relaxed, but I just can't bear to listen to my mom's nagging about how this baby is a blessing, and I want to kill it. I've moved into a friend's basement for a minimal rent. My mom's cousin paid them a visit about a week ago and tried to tell them they weren't doing this child any favors by bringing it into a life of poverty. My mom was very rude to my aunt and told her that a woman who chose to remain barren will never understand a mother's love. My aunt never wanted kids nor had any. My dad told her to get out. Aunt told me there was nothing she could do, but she did try. I didn't blame her. The cousin tried to explain the economic impact this kid would have, and my mom cried about how everyone was trying to take away her baby. WTF? The intervention didn't do crap. So now I've decided to cut contact with my parents. I just can't watch my family slide further and further into a hellhole. I'll be maintaining contact with my sister, 16, just to make sure my parents can't brainwash her. Otherwise, I'm done with these people. The next one is titled, I Ada for telling parents to leave me alone and let me raise my own damn kid. I just had my kid a week and 1 day ago. She was born via emergency C-section. Recovery has been horrible. I have also developed PPD. I love my baby regardless. But obviously the first few months are going to be very hard for me. But ever since I came back from the hospital, my parents have been up my ass about telling me how to raise my child. I take some of their advice, but a lot of it just annoys me. For starters, I asked both nurses and doctors almost every question I could think of about my baby. Every day before I left with her back home, I wanted to be prepared and double-check so I wouldn't risk any accidental harm. I've done everything doctors have told me to do as far as care. She even went to her first doctor's appointment not too long ago and her physician said I was doing an amazing job. Most newborns lose weight before they gain it back. But my baby is not only in great condition, but gaining weight. But apparently this isn't enough for them. They cannot stop giving me unwanted advice. And every time I tell them, that's not what the doctor said, they give me the whole, I raised kids. These doctors don't know what they're talking about. Keep in mind, my grandmother is in her 70s and my dad are in his late 40s. When they were raising kids, a lot of their advice is old school and flawed. Today I just had enough. I'm trying to feed my baby, which is difficult, because at the same time I'm trying to feed myself because I haven't eaten all day. I get bombarded with calls and text from my family telling me more, unasked unwanted advice. They told me, swaddle your baby with her legs straight. Meanwhile, my doctor told me, that loosens babies' hip muscles and isn't good for them and told me the proper way to swaddle. Nope. They weren't having that. And proceed to lecture me about how once again, doctors don't know anything and treat black people's children differently from white people's children. Keep in mind, my child is considered white due to my fair complexion. I am still considered black, and my husband being white. Obviously, race shouldn't matter in this topic but apparently it does to them. They bring it into everything. I got annoyed and just told them to back off and let me raise my own damn child. I'm tired of being told one thing, and then another thing from them. They're confusing me, and my husband. From cold milk being dangerous, I've been told that there is zero proof that cold milk affects babies, aside from a little shock value in some. Because they expect warm milk, from swaddling, to how to hold my baby because they think babies' skulls don't even exist on the sides. And it's nothing but brain. Obviously that's not true, etc. Of course, they're mad. And are calling me stupid for not questioning my doctor's advice. And undermining them because they've raised children. And I haven't. I'm mentally exhausted. A user in the comments said, NTA. Parenting techniques have changed a lot over the years, and what's recommended, done now, is different from what was done decades ago. One of my best friends actually had a bit of a row, that was later solved, because the mom kept pushing her to do things how she'd done them, or because the mom questioned why she did things differently. Your child, your decision. Your parents don't know more than doctors or nurses, that's just a fact, unless they're doctors or nurses themselves. Another user said, NTA. I mean your parents aren't wrong about racism and medicine. But it's your baby. Medicine has advanced since they have raised babies, and the doctors are giving you solid information. But I feel you. And OMG, the swaddling. Every single time, my mom would unwrap my child after I wrapped her. Also, babies in my family have Mongolian spots, and my parents kept warning me, oh, be prepared to get the 3rd degree. Especially at the doctor's office, they may even call CPS. As though I needed that added stress. Obviously, it was never an issue because it's common in brown, black babies and doctors know that. You know what's best for your baby and don't let anyone make you feel guilty for putting your foot down. The next one is titled, Update I Ada for telling parents to leave me alone and let me raise my own damn kid. I tried ignoring my family, but it didn't work out too well due to how frequent I've had to see them. They were very argumentative whenever I came over, saying things like, I must not love them, due to me not answering the phone. So honestly, not much of that advice worked. I had a tooth extraction not too long ago. That required me to have my family take care of my baby for 3 days. I left them a list of instructions. While I was there, they immediately didn't listen to anything I said, but that changed very quickly. When I told them, only feed her 2 ounces because otherwise you'll overfeed her, and she'll throw up everywhere, they basically disregarded it. Overfed her, reason being, she's still eating. Obviously I told them babies don't know when to stop eating from the bottle. But nope, they proceeded to say, no, you're just not feeding her enough. So, I just waited for the inevitable. It only took 5 minutes for my baby to puke all on them, and honestly, it made me smile. And I blurted out, what was that? Me knowing what I'm talking about. Guess you'll be feeding her 2 ounces. And slammed the instructions I wrote back in front of them. Kissed my baby goodbye and left for those few days. Came back 3 days later after recovering. My family looked absolutely exhausted. And that just made me smile more. They admitted to literally every single thing I've been telling them for the past 3 weeks. She really doesn't stop crying after warm milk. I guess it's not because you feed her cold milk. Wow, you must not be getting enough sleep. She had us up for so long. They love calling my phone because they think I have time to have a conversation, and so much more crap they accused me of doing wrong with her. Now I believe they'll shut up about how doctors don't know any better, because I then told them. My instructions they finally decided to follow were that of doctors, which they admitted beforehand, helped calm her down. Of course, I didn't get an apology. They're too proud to ever say, I'm sorry. In fact, they stated that after they followed my instructions, they were better than me than handling my own kid, which rubbed me the wrong way. Which means I'll be ignoring their calls and text even more, but at least they'll think it's because I'm actually busy with my baby. So, I think I'm finally free of their unwanted advice. And all it took was a newborn to put them in their place. The next one is titled, I ate a forgoing no contact with my parents after learning they had lied to me about my allergies all my life. Hey everyone, I am 19 years old, and my parents are in their 50s. For as long as I can remember, I have been allergic to several things. Dairy, wheat, flour, gluten and legumes. Since I was a young child, my parents have completely kept all of them out of our house. While other kids ate breakfast cereals, I ate fish and assorted pickled vegetables for breakfast. While other kids had Lunchables, I had grilled chicken or fish with, again, assorted vegetables, usually sweet potatoes. While other kids ate birthday cake at the birthday party, I had an apple. I never questioned this until a couple of months ago. I was at my aunt's house for my birthday party, and she made brownies for everyone. For me, she took great steps to make them with almond flour and avoided all of my allergies. I started eating them and thought little of it until my aunt suddenly looked at me and, in a panicked way, asked which plate I took the brownies from. I pointed from the one where I got my brownies, and she immediately stood up and told me we had to get my EpiPen. She raced to ask my mother for it, and I sat there scared out of my mind because I had never mistakenly eaten flour before. I noticed my mother had calmed her down, and then she said that we don't have to worry because she had switched the plates of brownies, and after all I had eaten the ones made with almond flour. I found this incredibly odd because, really, why would she swap the plates? That doesn't even make sense. But for the time being I let the issue rest. It didn't sit well with me for about a week and I finally went to get an allergy test. The doctor started with a skin prick test, and lo and behold, I didn't react to any of the above substances. Then he ordered a blood test, and when the results came in, they said that I had absolutely no intolerance to any of the foods I'm supposed to be allergic to. I was furious and called my mother. She eventually admitted that she lied to me because she wanted me to be on a Paleolithic diet and wanted me to be able to avoid all temptations. She raised me with a lie about her own health, but she keeps insisting that I try to see it from her perspective. She spams my phone with messages about how healthy I am, that I never had acne, that I have been in great shape my whole life, that I have strong teeth and bones, and even that I got onto a D1 college tennis team. She has started calling me ungrateful for her intervention and insisting that I really should be glad I never got carb addicted. I don't know what to think. I carried around an EpiPen for all those years, one that I suspect may be fake, seeing as my mother never got me to replace it, and I don't even know anymore. Am I the butthole and an ungrateful son for losing it over this? A user in the comments said, "NTA, you spent your entire life thinking that you could easily die because your mom wanted you on a special diet? Allergies are incredibly serious, and while you can grow out of them, to be lied to is unnecessary. What your mom did was manipulative and poor parenting. She easily could have had you on a diet like that without lying and making you fear for your life." Another user said, "NTA. Also, tell your aunt about your mom's lie. She should know that your mom made her put in extra effort for who knows how many times and caused her to go into a panic about you potentially having an allergic reaction, when in reality your mom had lied about your allergies. I feel bad your aunt went through that. What your mom did was so terrible. She needs to face the consequences for her actions. Cut contact until she understands just how bad her actions were." The next one is titled, "Update Ida for going no contact with my parents after they had lied to me about my allergies all my life? Perhaps against my better judgment, I decided that I would reopen a line of communication with my mother. I know this was not recommended by anyone in the post at all, but I just decided that I really wanted to have a relationship with her. I wanted her to see why what she did was so incredibly wrong and crossed so many lines, on top of wanting to be her son again. I texted her a few days after I made my original post and told her that I was willing to talk if she, A, did not say anything until I had my say, B, didn't gaslight me into thinking what she was doing was right, and C, truly considered my perspective. She agreed instantly. We set up a video chat at that point, where I explained many of the wonderful points people in this community brought up in my original post. What if I had really accidentally taken in one of the foods I was supposed to be allergic to? Absurdly irresponsible of her. Did she ever stop to consider that I, sitting there at another kid's birthday party chowing down on a ducking apple while the other kids ate cake, might just feel out of place? Inconsiderate. How could she have the nerve to suggest that my hard work and having a goddamned tennis racket practically glued to my hand since I was 4 was the reason why I'm such a successful athlete, but rather it was because I didn't eat gluten? Dismissive of my accomplishments. How could she have lied not only to me, but to our family as well? Dishonest. Why didn't she just talk to me instead of raising me on a lie? Underhanded. By the end of my rehearsed talk, my mother was straight up ugly crying. This was not exactly what I expected, but she apologized and said that she had been terrible. It was a huge leap from her previous response to my indignation. She told me everything I said was right and asked if I would listen to her reason why she did so. Before I was born, my mother had a much older brother. I knew about him, but never heard specifics on what happened to him. Apparently, he basically ate himself to death. He was so obese and food addicted that he was beyond help. He passed away when my mother was pregnant with me. They were close. It had a huge effect on her. She rationalized that lying would be better for me. When I brought up the fact that she didn't lie once, but for my entire life, she acknowledged that she truly had no excuse. This did not give me complete closure, but at least I got it. I am talking to my mother and father again. My father also apologized, although he has tried to maintain that he was more of an accomplice who tried to talk her out of it. That's another fight for another day. This is the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed the relationship stories. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like the video and write a comment. I really appreciate your support and it helps my channel so much. Thank you.